The government has launched the second round of public consultation on political reform, insisting there's no room for compromise on Beijing's highly restrictive framework to screen out pro-democracy figures in the 2017 chief executive election.
Pan-Democrat lawmakers walked out of the electoral chamber holding up yellow umbrellas, rejecting the government's warning that they would plunge Hong Kong into further political crisis by delaying universal suffrage.
The battle lines were already drawn in the electoral chamber when Chief Secretary Carrie Lam launched the second round of public consultation on political reform today. Just as she began her speech, all the pan-democratic lawmakers staged a dramatic walkout, holding up yellow umbrellas that have become a symbol of the civil disobedience movement for universal suffrage. Lam spent the next 20 minutes briefing the remaining pro-establishment lawmakers on the government's plans to spend the next 2 months gathering public feedback on how to go about electing Hong Kong's next chief executive in 2017. As expected, it will be done under the highly restrictive framework imposed by the National People's Congress Standing Committee to effectively screen out any candidate who does not have Beijing's support.
There is no room for any concessions or compromises to be made in order to win over the support from the pan-democratic members. I have to make this position absolutely clear so that there will be no illusion that concessions could be made.
To begin with, the size of the nominating committee, the official body responsible for selecting chief executive candidates, will remain unchanged at 1,200 members, the same as when Leung Chun-ying was chosen in 2012. In the document released today, the government suggests making the committee more representative by adjusting the number of members and electorate base of the current 38 subsectors, grouped under the business, professional, social and political sectors. The document also suggests the nomination procedure be divided into 2 stages, namely members' recommendation and committee nomination. To be recommended, each candidate must be endorsed by 1/8 or 150 members of the nominating committee, but a lower threshold of 100 members is also floated. In the second stage, those who are recommended must be backed by more than half of the nominating committee to become official chief executive candidates. 2 or 3 candidates will be shortlisted under this controversially high threshold set by the NPC, and Hong Kong's 5 million eligible voters can then pick the one they prefer.
They would not only have to face the 1,200 members of nominating committee, but at the same time they would have to face the 5 million possible voters. So the election platforms, the way to speak to the nominating committee, in effect they are speaking to 5 million Hong Kong voters.
But it remains to be seen how many votes each nominating committee member can cast, or what happens if no candidate can secure the endorsement of more than half of the nominating body. Referring to last year's road blockades and mass rallies by pro-democracy activists, Lam admitted the community has become increasingly polarized. Pan-democratic lawmakers are boycotting the consultation exercise and have vowed to veto the final election blueprint that the government will present to LegCo in the second quarter of this year. Lam warned opposition lawmakers they would be depriving 5 million voters of the right to pick their own leader, and that could delay universal suffrage right until 2022 at the earliest.
The government's political allies are urging the pan-democrats to work towards achieving some form of universal suffrage rather than getting nothing at all.
But opposition lawmakers say the government might as well ask LegCo to vote on a final reform package right away, as they intend to veto it regardless of the consultation exercise. ATV's Rachel Leung reports.
Rival groups staged separate protests outside LegCo today, reflecting the deep divide in society over the way forward for achieving universal suffrage. Opposition lawmakers who walked out of the chamber vowed again to veto any reform package under Beijing's restrictions. They said the government might as well put it to a vote in LegCo right away.
We, in fact, would urge the Central People's Government and the Hong Kong SAR government not to waste the 2 months to be spent on the so-called second stage consultation.
The government's political allies urged opposition lawmakers to be reasonable and seek a compromise.
There must be a dialogue between the government and the pro-democrats. But walking out from the chamber doesn't help anything. I think it's even making things worse. So I think the coming 2 months, I think the government should try their best to sit down with the Democrats, and hopefully come up with some solution.
Right now, they just walked out on the statement. So I think the uncooperative movement by the Pandem will continue to happen. I certainly think that even though the Pandem took that irresponsible act, I think government should at least try to approach them one by one, group by group, and hopefully by sometime middle of this year when we come to voting time, we will have enough votes.
Rachel Lang, ATV News.